So I'll begin talking. I'm sorry, my voice sounds bad. I'll begin talking about this experience that I had maybe about a year and almost a half ago. And it led to a lot of trauma. It was my first full-time working experience after coming out of college. And I carried with me a lot of optimism and naivete that was, I guess, exploited or even taken for granted. Well, it should be, the order should be reversed. And also, I'm sorry, my thoughts are not eloquent because I'm just speaking into the mic as it goes. And this is gonna be one take, and it is what it is. So I first recorded the clips for this video when I was sort of coming out of that experience. I just quit my job and I was coming to terms or getting to grips with what just happened to me. And that first recording had a copy of the voiceover that I initially did. And I realized how, because I was listening back to it, I finally decided to come back to this video. And I realized how angry I sounded. I sounded very bitter and angry. And that was valid for me to feel. I'm not gonna undermine what I experienced. But at the same time, I realized how raw I sounded coming out of that experience so fresh. And after reflecting on it for maybe half a month, I started working out. I started going outside to just experience and to feel. I didn't really have an agenda. I don't know. I wanted to heal. That's what I knew. But I also realized, looking back, that I was so angry and I used that anger kind of as retaliation. For a long time, that anger drove me to prove to the people that wronged me that I could do it. And by what I could do, I meant I could find a good workplace. I could find a workplace that was a community that did not undermine, did not exploit, did not take advantage, did not oppress. It did not break you down, and it did not leave you broken. It did not leave you at a loss before the day even began. Because I went into it with an idea of how it was going to be, and they present themselves that way too. So I thought that our missions and our visions aligned. And hence, that's why I went into it feeling like it was such a good opportunity for me to showcase or excel in the area made for me. But at the end of the day, it was a place that was exploitative in nature because it took advantage of the small resources in an artist's breadth. It took advantage of their burgeoning career, and it leveraged its position to kind of force them into this position where they received the remuneration that they did not deserve. And by that I mean they paid them less for the work that they did, and it ended up being a real point of contention. And the people there, not the people who worked with me on my level, but it was very hierarchical. There was no communication. There was no sort of understanding of the feedback being taken into account and being worked on. And it was very dysfunctional. So I left that place, and as a result, I became very disillusioned with the entire art, creativity, or cultural scene in Hong Kong. And so, as a result of that, I came out very bitter and angry, which is totally valid. I mean, what I experienced was really the deepest end of the spectrum. But at the time, I didn't have that closure that I wanted, where I really got to express everything that I wanted to say deep down in my heart. Because, one, I knew that it would be pointless, because if they had already devalued me, my thoughts, my feedback, and taken so much of my time, I realized that nothing that I would say would actually be worked on or taken into their account. They would not realize what they did wrong. And so I didn't fight back, I didn't do anything, I just quit. And the week when I handed in my 1 week's notice, I was given the silent treatment by the higher ups. They were really dismissive and actually outright nasty to me. Even during my exit interview, they made some offhand remarks that seemed like they were in agreement with what I wanted to say, but in a way that it was insulting me personally. And so the way that everything was handled was just very insincere, very horribly, and we did not have the resources that we needed. But I realized that the ultimate, I wanted revenge at that time, but the ultimate revenge for me was when I realized that all of the colleagues that I had working with me on around the same position, I guess you can say, hierarchical level, we all left. Our generation of employees all left. And so that was one thing that vindicated my experience, is that I was not alone in my feelings of being dissatisfied, disgruntled, angry, even witnessing so much injustice but not being able to do anything, feeling like I transgressed that sort of mission that I came out of university to fulfill, to support and to aid and to uplift artists using the platform that we have and the resources that we are given. So yeah, I was just so lost. I was so angry, and I listened back to that first recording and I realized how much that anger drove me to try to fulfill, to push me forward. I was giving myself a time limit to healing because I wanted to get back on, not taking things slow, getting back on finding something that will prove me right and them wrong. And that was really not the point. I realize that now after a whole year. And I didn't realize that quite a long time ago. I actually realized that like maybe 3 weeks ago when I went back to this park and I just went there without, really much of a mission. I just went there to feel, just went there to experience, just went there to decompress or unwind. And it all started coming back to me, and I reflected on that experience. And I realize now that I feel empty. Like, I feel empty because now that I'm healed, I realize that that motivation for me to do better, to prove them wrong, was founded in anger. And because I healed, I let go of that anger. And so there was nothing driving me anymore. And I fell into, I guess, a short bout of despair because I realized, like, my motivations weren't mine. It was founded inside an emotion that was temporary. And that gave me a small crisis. But I look back on these experiences now that, from the clips that you're seeing in this video, of the plants, of the animals, I'm realizing how beautiful life is. I appreciate deeply the simple joys of being able to find peace in our environment. I feel so grateful that I'm able to witness animals living a life of their own And there's so much to life outside of our lives. If you get my meaning, it's just, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but human intelligence is sort of at the forefront of evolution. Everything is so human centered, you know. It's like, you know, we're living in the what they call the Anthropocene, and it's like you talk about humanism at the forefront of intelligence, being the apex predator, and being smarter than the rest, more evolved than the rest. But actually, there are so many examples of compassion, community, and the social lives of animals outside of the framework of understanding intelligence according to what humans define it. And so it's really beautiful that we get to witness the beautiful lives of animals outside of our own, because it really makes you reflect on, it doesn't make me feel crisis, because some people might think, oh, the transience of a short life compared to mine makes me feel at a loss because I'm not making the most of it. But it is so beautiful that I could cry. Like, we are so lucky, truly. I don't know if anybody understands me, but I could weep every time I talk about this. Not very many people understand this, but just sitting here thinking about everything that went on and me in the past, the way that I felt, versus me now, I would definitely say I grew. And I'm very proud of me in the past. I don't hold any resentment for the way that I was, because when I left, I was holding so much contentment for the people that mistreated me. But I did not hurt them. I did not yell back. I was not, and that's not to say reacting out of anger or hurt is wrong, because I understand what that feeling is like, what that urge is like. I've been there. I'm not a perfect person. I can react in a flawed way, but, you know, at the receiving end of such hurt, such pain, such anguish, and just sitting there and taking in those insults, I didn't fight back. I just sat there. And then I left. And I think that was the most gracious thing that I did ever. Most mature thing that I did in my life. I mean, even now with relationships that failed, I wish I could say I acted that mature, but I did not. And so I'm just like, I look back and I'm like, what happened there to cause me to react that way? Because I'm not like that. I'm very sensitive. I crash out quite easily. So it's like a kind of a puzzle for me, but maybe I was just really numb and I just wanted to get out of there, and I didn't have the time to process it until it was over. But that is not to say that there wasn't the beautiful moments too, because I had a great relationship with my coworkers that were with me, that were supporting me, that were working with me throughout the entire process. Me leaving definitely did not make it easy for them. I completely understand that. And I kind of regret leaving the way that I did, because it meant that they had to cover me, or, you know, they had to eat the rest of the food off my plate. It's like sort of a hard to translate analogy from Cantonese, but I definitely felt really terrible for that. But I appreciate the slow moments during the day when the higher-ups weren't there and we were able to just go out back and not relax, but to unwind. You know, to just sit there and breathe. To have a break. Just to take everything in. And that leads me to my next kind of musing, because serendipitously today I was browsing a bookstore and I saw a book about ikigai. Ikigai? Don't know how you pronounce it, but there was this chapter in that book that is introducing logotherapy and ikigai. And in that section, there is an introduction on morita therapy. And I realized that, like, without any, because I only started therapy maybe this year, early this year, in February, no, mid-March, not late February, mid-March. And so, I mean, there were many reasons to it, financial, and also, I guess, like, executive dysfunction, when you're procrastinating because it's really hard to find the right therapist. And, taking finances into account is just, like, it's very overwhelming, and then you just put it off until you break down. And that's what happened, but that's not the case. Like, that's not what we're here to talk about today. So I wanted to talk about morita therapy because I realized that without searching up any sort of self-help methods, I just sort of practiced morita therapy by accident. And so morita therapy is like so it's named after the person who developed it, called Shoma Morita, and I think they are also a Buddhist monk in practice, so it makes sense why a lot of it talks about isolation, being present, being embodied, feeling, expressing, and a slow reintroduction into society after accepting your feelings. So there's a few stages. One is accepting your feelings, being in solitude and rest for about like 5 days to a week. And I wanted to touch on light occupational therapy, which is like a stage where the patient performs like repetitive tasks in silence. They journal, / keeping a diary about their thoughts and feelings, going outside to take walks in nature, doing simple activities like gardening, drawing, or painting. And they don't really talk to anyone except for their therapist.
Oh my god, you guys,
and I just wanted to say I didn't have a therapist, so I was really just talking to myself. By that I mean I was just journaling my thoughts for myself to read. And sometimes I don't even read them, I just write them and then I close it, my journal. And oh my god, like, I guess the path to healing is so, I mean, it's really unconventional. Everybody has their own way or method of healing, but I definitely need to take a break, to self-isolate, to just, I guess it's not really recentering because I don't know what the hell that means, but to be back in my body again, to remember who I am. And by remembering who I am, I mean finding myself through the lives of nature, animals, and people, like people watching in the park. Like just remembering that compassion, empathy, and joy at seeing these people live their lives, these animals live their lives, nature take its path, like it's all so beautiful. So that was sort of a way to reintroduce me to a new mindset and to explore further, I guess, activities that really reminded me of joy, simple pleasures, like the book mentioned, drawing, painting, or small hobbies to get your hands moving but your mind to be focused, to enter that flow state. And so I guess you could draw inspiration from this video to understand a little bit about your situation. I really empathize, and it's okay that you should take your time to feel everything, to welcome it and to send it away with acceptance, to acknowledge it but not to force it away. Embrace it, sit with it, and then let it go. And it is true that with time, your mind and your body and your soul, it heals from whatever comes, whatever baggage comes. And you are able to let go as you take your time and you follow your path to become yourself again. And if you realize that you were never yourself, then this is a good opportunity to find yourself again. But what you are going through, what you are feeling, what happened to you, everything is real. Everything is valid. The emotions you feel, the reactions you have, it is all valid. You are allowed to feel those things because it happened to you. Don't let anybody take that away from you. And I wish you well. And I hope you learned something new from this video. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.